All right, this time we are looking at the Airpods Gen 2 with the wireless charging case. Oh my god, it's those famous white turds that everybody wears. Wow. Yeah, you're gonna see them on this channel. Just this once, maybe twice, at most 3 times. But yeah, brought these in here. Listen, I'm not proud of having purchased these. I'm not proud of currently owning these. But you know what? This needs to be documented. I needed to get a pair for myself, and I needed to test it out and be like, well, listen, now I put it on paper, and now it's on video, on YouTube for the end of time, or at the very least, as long as YouTube stands, documented for anybody that cares, or even glances to look at these. If you're glancing to look at these, this is the video that's going to make you say, so then these were worth it. Or, well, good thing I didn't buy them. Or what have you. So, let's just go ahead and jump into it. The build on these, so it's plastic, man. The case is plastic. Okay? That standard plastic, the same plastic that you can find on traditional earpods. The exact same kind. That goes for the case, and that goes for the units themselves. By the way, I got the wireless charging case equivalent, so just an FYI. That's why it has the LED to indicate whether it's on, off, yada yada. So here they are. This is what they look like. That's why I brought these out, for the sake of comparison. That's right with right. Check it out. So when comparing these two, hey, camera, yo, okay, I'll just put my hand back there. So when comparing these two, you can tell that they're actually very blurry. Freaking camera, come on. They're very similar. Their cutouts, their grills are a slight bit different, and the ones on the Airpods are, well, they have a few more. And the reason for that is because they have some additional controls and what have you that, ew, what's that? Have some additional controls that, well, improve the experience. But as far as the build quality goes, they're the same thing, honestly. It's the exact same type of plastic, except a slightly thicker stem on the Airpods as opposed to the Earpods. And that's it, just a few more cutouts and stuff like that. These are not water resistant, just the thing to point out there. So be careful if you're going to be exercising with these, because that can be a bit problematic there, what with the lack of protection and all. As far as comfort goes, one of two things will occur with these. You will either think they are extremely comfortable, the most comfortable in-ear solution that you will ever find on the market, period, or you will not be able to wear them because they slip out of the area that lies next to the cavum of the ears. That's just a fact. They're either going to slip out or they're going to be extremely comfortable. One of the two will occur. Now they do sell ear hooks, aftermarket ear hooks, for about $12 for a pair. And this is what the Earpod ear hooks look like. And as far as the Airpods go, it looks pretty much exactly the same, except they have, more cutouts for the sensors and stuff like that. But it works exactly the same way. And just if you were curious about it, they do fit the Airpods, by the way. And they work just fine, except for the fact that because the sensors are covered, you do lose some of the functionality, like the automatic play pause, that kind of stuff. And I think that's just about it, honestly. They don't cover anything else other than that, the play pause feature. But since I'm using Android, and we'll get to the features in a bit, but since I'm using Android, that's not a big deal for me because I don't have play pause to begin with. So not so bad. But you can definitely use these, although I'd recommend getting the AirPod equivalent, which have the cutouts. So a downside to getting that, however, is that they will not fit in their case with that. So if we go ahead and put this in, we go ahead and put this on right there. And yes, these would fit the Airpods incredibly fine with no issues. But then you put it in here, you want to put it in there, it's like, oh cool, look at that, it fits. right? You want to close the lid? You can't. You want to stuff this in there? You can't either. It's not going to work out for you, which means that you're going to have to get like a rubber band and then just kind of tie this up like that and have it semi-open forever and ever. And that is obviously incredibly inconvenient. So you're going to end up carrying around like a small Ziploc bag or something where you're going to have your AirPods and these things just kind of, messing around in there. And then every time you take them out, you have to take out an AirPod and then apply the thing, and then take out another AirPod and apply the other thing. So it's problematic. Now let's jump into the tech side of things. As far as the tech goes, these are running on Bluetooth 5.0. That means they're running pretty much the latest and greatest that Bluetooth audio has to offer. So any problems, any, crappy sound that you hear from these, any issues like those are going to be entirely the fault of Apple and the audio product itself, not the tech side of things. Because generally speaking, wireless tech products have actually gotten pretty decent as the years have gone by. I'm not going to lie. But anyway, these are rated to last around 24 hours. And we're talking the buds plus the case. They pair very easily with Apple products, obviously. And they still pair quite easily with Android products too. So that's not a big deal. And here I'll go ahead and show the process. All right, now pairing the AirPods is actually pretty easy. I'm going to move my friend's image out of the way there. It's actually pretty easy. When you initially receive them, they're going to be ready to go in pairing mode. So once you receive them, you're going to want to go ahead and open up your Bluetooth settings. Just go ahead and there you go. And then what you're going to do is you're going to open these, and they're automatically going to be ready to go to be set up for Bluetooth. So you just go down to your available devices, and once again, I'm sorry for my fingernails. There are the AirPods. Just tap on them. Do you want to pair? No. Yes, of course I do. And just like that, your AirPods are now connected. Just like that. And they should be connected for calls as well. It says only, there you go. So yeah, just like that, they're connected. Whenever you remove them, that's it. You just take them out and you're good to go. And you just close the case. Takes a few seconds and it disconnects. Simple. The features, Apple versus Android. With Apple, you can double tap on them to play, skip, or answer a call. Well, actually, with Apple, you can double tap to skip, to play. You can double tap to play or pause or answer a call. With Android, you can only double tap to skip. To answer or hang up the phone, you'd have to triple tap, but that only works on, you double tap to skip tracks, and that's pretty much all you can do on Android. You can't do anything else. You can triple tap to answer a call and then triple tap to hang up again, but that's about it. Now on Apple, you can also choose to leave one side, double tap to play pause, and then the other side to skip or rewind, and then again, triple tap to answer or hang up. So you've got customizability with Apple, but with Android, you're pretty much just stuck with that. You can only skip, and that's it. As far as bringing up an assistant goes, you can only do that on Apple. On Android, as far as I know, you could use a third-party solution to bring up the Google Assistant that way. But frankly, I don't use it, so I don't care. And frankly, I don't think it's that important to begin with. But there should be some third-party functionality that lets you do that on Android. But it's completely native on Apple. You just straight up, hey, assistant, and it just comes up. So as far as stopping playing when removed from ears, as far as the music stopping when you remove these from your ears, it only does that on Apple. On Android, it just doesn't. The only time it'll ever stop is when you put it in its case, you put it down like that, and that's it. It will stop playing eventually. And of course, if you seal the lid, it'll also stop doing that as well. As far as the stuff that comes with it, Jesus Christ. Now, as far as its range goes, on iPad, this is interesting actually. On iPad, I went 50 steps if I kept facing away. I just walked away from the iPad facing the opposite direction. I went 50 steps And then at some point I got to the 50 steps and I was like, really? Is it really that good? So I turned around at that point, and as soon as I turn around, it cuts off. Then I face forward again, like away from the device, and it just continues playing, no issues. Then I kept walking, and then once I got to step 60, it died, just completely off. It disconnected. Now that's on Apple, well, on iPad at least. On Android, I went 26 steps, regardless of what direction I was facing, completely off. That's it. Just 26 steps and it's off. Let's take a look at the stuff it comes with here. As far as the stuff it comes with, well, it's relatively simple. By the way, it does not come with Apple stickers at all. It comes with these right here. These beautiful, pointless things. It comes with trash. And it comes with the connector right there. This is a Lightning to USB Type A charger. So clearly these are kind of aimed towards the slightly lower income individuals. Clearly, you know, those people that can't afford the latest and greatest iPad or iPhone 11 Pro Max with the new the new wall wart with the Type C connector to it, like the AirPods Pro come with. So yeah, this one you're pretty much stuck with something that's a little more traditional, yes, but kind of starting to be seen as obsolete as far as mobile device chargers go. That's really all it comes with. So let's go ahead and get started with the bass on these right here. How does a bass sound on a, well, relatively open sounding Bluetooth wireless product? Well, the bass is honestly, it's disgusting. The bass on this is absolutely disgusting. It is ridiculously bloated, especially in the mid bass, which is the worst area that you could possibly increase bass in because of the risk of blooming over into the mids and the upper bass, which causes an extremely warm, extremely just not even lush. The only way I can describe it is just just too warm. It's just way too warm of a sound, and that's what happens here. No amount of EQ can completely save it from that boost in the mid bass. By the way, I tried. I really tried. The best solution that I could find was severely trimming it down using Spotify, and yes, I use Spotify with these, not like. I use both my tracks and Spotify, but mainly Spotify, thinking that most consumers would end up using these with some sort of like extremely convenient service such as Spotify, as opposed to local files on a phone. But anyway, with Spotify's EQ, I ended up toning it down like just so much. Gotta be at least like 6 to 7 decibels just to make these sound agreeable, at least, or acceptable in the bass response. Bass guitars suffer the worst from this, honestly. Look, the only time these were bearable when I was listening to these critically were on bass-light tracks, just because, generally speaking, with that EQ plus the fact that it's bass-light, it kind of evens out to a more neutral-ish kind of sound, but it's still not neutral. Yeah, so bloated mid bass. Now the sub bass is pretty much non-existent on these. Surprise, surprise. Not that there is no bass extension there. There is some, but it's almost non-existent, like I said. So it's kind of unfortunate because you have the worst of both worlds here. As far as the bass response is concerned, you got a huge, boomy, bloated, muddy mid bass, and then when the sub bass hits, it's just gone. Nothing there. So yeah, this is for sure. The bass on these have to be the biggest weak point of the AirPods. Hands down. Just hands down. Now, as far as the mids are concerned, finally, I have something positive to say. Female vocals are surprisingly decent here. They're surprisingly detailed and forward enough. Now, I'm not going to say they're like audiophile levels, but I guess it's like the tragedy, the travesty that is the bass response bleeding into the mids is, I guess, some sort of a silver lining with the mids as far as the mids are concerned, because the mids end up acquiring a sort of lush but comfortable vocal presence that is, yes, vocal, yes, forward, yes, detailed, but there's this like I said in the AirPods Pro review, there's this sort of like glazed feeling to the vocals and the mids that, yes, they're still detailed, but they're also very comfortable, very, very inviting to listen to, not shrill in any manner while still maintaining all of the detail there. So the example I had for the female vocals was, again, Dream On, the Postmodern Jukebox cover. I know, I'm super original, whatever. The cello solo at 231. It honestly has a decent amount of detail and an alright timbre. Like I said, it is on the thicker side, but that makes it more enjoyable. And it's not so thick that the cello sounds like very fake or very, I don't know, just kind of cartoonish in a sort of way. It still sounds pretty real, and it does have an accurate enough timbre to say, okay, this isn't exactly correct, but it's not, it's still enjoyable, honestly. It does add a certain bit of enjoyability to the mids and the cello in particular. I will say this though, on my iPad, the mids seem slightly more clear and slightly more distinguishable and separated from the rest of the frequency than they did on Android. So I'll just point that out. It was just ever so slight difference. And I didn't apply any EQ to the mids, by the way. When I did this testing, other than to point out that I applied the EQ to like Spotify just to test the bass, the rest of the time I tested this entirely neutral, okay, stock. So male vocals have decent detail too, although not as decent as female vocals. So the example I'm going to use here is the Postmodern Jukebox cover of Titanium. Poor Von Smith, like he just does his best to perform, and he just gets swept away by the string bass that's like set to level 11 because of how incredibly bloomy and boomy the mid bass is on these. It's kind of funny, honestly. So the track becomes almost unlistenable, practically unlistenable, but it's kind of funny to point out there. You just have the poor guy just like, just singing his heart out, and then the bass is just there, like right in front of your eardrums, I will say this though, the violins really pop. Violins really pop in the mids on these. Now we're getting to treble. How do I put this lightly? I know.
I have a question for God. Why?
Listen, these things have no highs, and they have terrible extension. I mean, listen, they make Bangarang by Skrillex and Syra sound warm and dark. Do you know how laid back and non-existent your treble response has to be to make Bangarang by Skrillex sound warm? The track is a cold track. It is, like, I would say treble heavy. It's a treble heavy track, and it's very, very cold. And to make it sound warm is like, it's a feat. I don't know. It's kind of like saying these are so bad, they're good at being bad, as far as the treble is concerned, honestly. But generally speaking, the treble that you're receiving here, I'll go into it into more detail later on in the review, like towards the end. But the type of treble response that you receive here, as far as the warmth goes, or the darkness, can be good for certain instances. And I'll get into more detail later in the review. But unfortunately, that darkness is also accompanied by a huge lack of detail. And that's a problem. Now, if you're some mainstream dude that happened to come across this channel and be like, what are you talking about, dude? These have plenty of detail. They're pretty nice. Or listen. You have reached an audiophile channel, a channel where people with like their gears are worth thousands of dollars. So these people know what they're talking about. These people know what detail are, okay? So take it from me, take it from the comment section. These aren't detailed. And if you think these have detail, you are being fooled by Apple and the mainstream consumer market. I advise you look into something else. And you know what? Stay tuned for the channel if you are still looking for a truly wireless option and you would like some actual detail in your life. So, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Soundstage and imaging on these. Honestly, not really impressive. Nothing really to point out. They're not wide, but they're not narrow either. They don't sound closed in, thankfully. And the imaging is quite meh on these, to be completely honest. You know, they're not like level 1 imaging, but they do an all right job. You know, at least you can tell left is left, right is right, and there are probably like 2 different areas where instruments could be in on each side, maybe 3. It's fine, I guess. Generally speaking, I guess they don't really disappoint, but they definitely don't blow you away either as far as the soundstage and imaging is concerned. But thankfully, because of their because of their open nature, the fact that they don't plug your ears, it kind of helps the soundstage a little bit. It kind of helps you feel like, you know, the sound is breathing, as opposed to sounding closed in and sealed, which happens with most other IEMs or earphones. So that's a good thing. Now, before we jump into the conclusion of these, I'm going to make some notes and observations that I noticed while owning these. I ran these on the 2D15 firmware. So that's the latest and greatest as of right now, May 2020. So there's no such thing as like, oh, well, you're running on old firmware, update your firmware. You update your firmware. Anyways, when I removed one AirPod and put it back in its case, then took it out to play again, it played at a significantly lower volume than the other one. The left, to be more specifically. The left played at a lower volume than the right. So it's weird. They were perfectly in sync with each other, but literally, I mean, the left must have been playing at like half the volume of the right. It was a strange experience. I don't know why. That only happened once thus far. And I've had these for, it's got to be a week and a half to 2 weeks now. And I've been using them for, decent amount of time. Couple days like that, just using them on and off. So I took these out for a short jog. And mind you, because they are not water resistant, I didn't like run miles or anything with them. I just went for like a 1 to 2 minute jog back and forth in the neighborhood. So no sweating was involved. Listen, I didn't apply any EQ here, but because of the environment and the somewhat windy nature of what was going on around me, the background noise and everything, the bass bloat became easy to ignore. Not incredibly easy, but easy to ignore due to it being drowned by the environment. Also, they did not fall out. They sat on the outermost portion of my ears, and they almost disappeared because of how incredibly lightweight they are and because of the fact that they don't protrude into your ear canal. But would I say these would fall out? Honestly, I think they would, but it definitely didn't feel that way. It definitely felt like there was something, like I definitely could have worn those for, let's say, a 2-mile jog or run. And if anything, I probably would have had to adjust them like once. And that's only after I start sweating and they start kind of slipping a little and stuff like that. So I was impressed with that. Now, I went out for that same 2-minute jog with these on, and that's it. That was the problem. I mean, that was a solution. No more fit issues, no problems. I never had to adjust them ever again. I just put them on and I never had to worry about them until I took them off after the jog. Just so perfect after you apply an ear hook to them. So if you are going to be taking these out for a jog or for some sort of workout, push-ups, sit-ups, whatever, I strongly encourage you purchase those things, because even if they're not absolutely necessary, even if they stay in your ears relatively well enough, the amount of extra security these give you it's just something you can't live without. It just feels amazing with these things on. They become the perfect to-go buddy. Like, sound aside, they are definitely the best to-go buddy you could have, except for like in very loud places where you really want to listen to music and the environment just doesn't let you, but I digress. Conclusion. These things are terrible for music or critical listening of any kind. The only genres of music that they're passable for are spoken word and like podcasts or YouTube videos. That's honestly all these are good for. Sound-wise, like critical listening, right? They are so terrible, they make sicko mode sound balanced. Yeah, you're freaking... Look, oh my God, I'm breaking down here. Dude, okay. Your freaking audio product sounds like absolute bull when it makes sicko mode sound balanced. Sicko mode is one of the worst things I've ever heard. No. Really? Sicko mode is one of the worst, just one of the worst mixes I have ever heard. Because you have the music playing in the background. Okay, that's fine. You got the beat laying in the background. And okay, it's fine. It's not loud. It's not quiet. It doesn't sound like beautiful or anything, but it's not ugly. It's fine, whatever. And then you got the vocals coming in, and it's so harsh and so forward and so shrill, not only because of autocorrect, but because of the mastering. It's so terrible. And you can practically say, the better the headphone, the worst sicko mode sounds, as far as like a sound signature goes. To make sicko mode be, not necessarily like listenable, but like to make sicko mode sound agreeable, you have a problem when sicko mode sounds agreeable on these. So that's all I really have to say about these. Look, here's an idea with these. If one is willing to EQ the bass on these as low as possible on something like Spotify or some other EQ, mind you, I also tried it on the EQ on my Android phone, on Phonograph. That happens to be the mobile app that I use for my local playlist, and it didn't work. So only on Spotify thus far. One could use these as workout buds if you're willing to EQ the bass on these as low as possible, or without, critically distorting bass or anything like that. They would be perfect for people who don't want their ears plugged. However, they are not water resistant. So this means one is forced to buying AppleCare Plus to use them comfortably, so that if they die due to sweat or some sort of moisture or something like that, or they fall out of your ears, you can use your AppleCare Plus to get a new unit instead of having to purchase a brand new set, 2 of them and the case. In theory, these are excellent workout buds, but use them at your own discretion and use them, just, caution with that. Try not to get these too wet. Does it have that Bluetooth sound? Do these have that Bluetooth sound I was referring to? That thinness and that paper-like timbre to the instruments? Honestly, who cares? Look, a polished turd is still a turd. You can quote me on that. That's mine. Well, I'm sure someone has said it before, but I'm going to state it, and never has it been so relevant to what it pertains to. Honestly, if you're not using these for spoken word or just to watch YouTube videos, or because you need your ears unplugged, or if you're willing to just use these as workout buds and willing to EQ that mid bass down a lot, these things are an absolute joke and they're a waste of money. The only time they're actually somewhat worth your money are if you can get them pre-owned. Well, not pre-owned, but if you can get a good deal off of these from places like Reddit forums where they sell Apple products. You know what? I'll link Apple Swap at the bottom, because plenty of people out there have very good prices for some practically brand new to very slightly pre-owned Apple products, and they have very good deals on them. So if you can, I've seen these go for around $120, $125 on Reddit. I haven't checked eBay, but on Reddit, I've seen these go for like $120-ish for the wireless charging case solution with these, like brand new, or someone that like used these for a week and then doesn't want them anymore. If you can get them at that price and the previous things I mentioned apply to you, then yeah, these could be a decent buy. I don't think they're the best buy, but they can definitely be an interesting option for you. Do I like these? No, generally speaking, I despise the sound of these. And you wouldn't catch me dead with one of these in public. But would I use these for workouts? That is yet to be determined, my guy. Stick around, or my lady. Stick around, find out. We are going to be releasing quite a lot of truly wireless videos throughout the next few weeks. And the answer to that question might come up pretty soon. Anyways, don't forget to check out the Patreon down below. Let me know if you have any additional things you want to see from the tiers or anything else like that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. If you have any questions about these or anything else, feel free to ask me. Links down below to some products. I'll try to link the AirPods equivalent of these as well for Amazon. And yeah, you're welcome.